To me, the movie theater is like a second home. The sights, the sounds, and the smells always welcome me in, especially when I go to a local independent theater. The movie isn't the only story you experience at the cinema. The theater itself has an incredible story of its own, and it all unfolds right here on the silver screen. Hello everybody, and welcome. My name is Chris McNicholas, and this is the Silver Screen, where we highlight independent movie theaters from across the Bay Area and go behind the scenes to learn about their fascinating history and their special role in the community. Now playing on the Silver Screen, the Delta Theater. Located in the heart of downtown Brentwood at 641 First Street, the Delta Theater opened its doors in 1938 during the Great Depression, a time when most businesses were shutting their doors. Opening a movie theater during this period was a great risk, but nonetheless, the Delta was able to persevere and survive for the decades to come, thanks to everlasting support from the residents of Brentwood, Antioch, and Pittsburgh. However, the Delta's operations came to an abrupt halt in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic forced the theater to shut its doors, and, much like other businesses that suffered during the pandemic, the Delta Theater remained closed. All hope seemed lost for this theater, but if there's one thing the Delta's history has taught us thus far, it's that this movie theater is resilient. Just after the Delta's closure, the theater changed ownership, and now, under the control of Sean McCauley, Ron Harrison, and Josh Cottle, the Delta Theater underwent a massive renovation, including the installation of a new sound system, fresh paint and neon lights, and most importantly, new features that allowed the Delta to cater to their customers in a very unique way, by giving them new, unconventional choices. Moviegoers could choose between either standard seats or reclining seats. They could choose if they wanted real butter on their popcorn or artificial butter. These options may seem small on the surface, but go a long way in giving the moviegoer full freedom over how they want their movie viewing experience to be. After 4 years of refurbishment, the Delta Theater celebrated its grand reopening in the summer of 2024, helping to strengthen the bond of the Brentwood community once again. Back in December, I had the honor of speaking with Josh Cottle, operator of the Delta, where he shared with me the theater's history and the Delta's mission of giving back to the local community. All right, everyone, so we have a very special guest here with us today on the next episode of The Silver Screen. He's the operator of the Delta Theater in Brentwood, and his name is Josh Cottle. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Hello, thanks. It's nice to see you.
All right, so we're going to get started here. What do you consider to be the Delta Theater's main mission?
I would say to be a destination for the entire community to make core memories that you just can't make, in my opinion, you just can't make at the 16 megaplex because it's just so informal. Here you see everyone in the small lobby together. We just did a Polar Express as a fundraiser for one of the elementary schools, and I just love seeing all the little kids so excited because if you think about it, the theater closed with COVID. We only reopened in June of this year. So in my mind, anyone like 8 or under probably has no recollection of ever having come here before in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like new for them, and that's fun.
Good. When did you become operator of the Delta, and what made you want to take on that role?
Well, background story: the Delta was run very successfully by Cinelex Theaters of San Jose from 2000 until 2020. And I used to work for Paul Gunsky and Cinelex Theaters. Once I met the property and successful businessman, he's a local guy. So he's not all talk, but where's the cash? Of course, the cash is important, but he's really dedicated to the theater and the community. And that was when I wanted to be involved, was when it was a truly community first effort as opposed to, open a theater, sell X number of this, and always upsell to the large and blah, 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 blah. Once it became not a cookie cutter, that's when I wanted to do it.
Very nice. Now moving on to the history of the Delta. When did the Delta Theater originally open?
Summer of 1938. It was a one screen like they all were until sometime in the 90s. It changed hands a bunch of times over that time. Sometime in the 90s, some previous operator cut it into two screens, but fortunately they did it nicely. They did it front to back as opposed to side, so you don't have that narrow little shoebox with a narrow little screen way, way, way down the way. You still have a nice wide screen. And then put in a glass storefront that closed off the canopy area, under the marquee. So we got that reopened. That was a priority for the property owner because he wanted it to look like it did when he was a kid growing up in Brentwood. And over that time, it did change hands. It changed formats a lot too. It went to all Spanish for a while because of all agriculture and the migrants who would come. It did second run and then it went back to first run and bounced around. So it's had a lot of history, but the fact that it opened right in the middle of the Depression and continued on, I think was kind of a testament to, the long legs of the theater, that a movie theater would open during the Depression.
Yeah.
It's quite I wouldn't have done it. So
it's a huge risk, definitely.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's right. Here we are. And yeah, you said the theater opened just this past summer, or I should say it reopened this past summer. Was renovating the theater always going to be part of the plan, whether COVID happened or not?
Well, I don't know because Cinelux was the operator before. And once originally Rave opened up the 14 screen at the Streets, and then AMC took it over, which is why it's a shell of its former self. Paul Gunsky and Cinelux took the approach of calling it the Delta Cinema Saver. So they still had first run movies. Place was always clean, always run well, but dated. Very, very dated. So I don't know, but I do know that that was an absolute priority for myself and for the property owner to do because it was just time. And the old days, the 70s, 80s, 90s approach of, oh, okay, well, slap a coat of paint on and put in some seats that are new to that building, boom, you're good to go. That just wasn't going to cut it in today's expectation market. So we had to push it. So we have recliners, but we also have non-recliners in both rooms. Our approach was more, let's give you the choice. If you want a recliner, cool, buy it. If you don't, then fine. We've got real butter or we've got the fake stuff. We've got half price Wednesdays where you don't have to have, it drives me nuts with the apps and the coupons and giving up your privacy and your rights. So it's just show up, have the discount, have a fun day. So we try to keep it simple, but we try to give people choices that they never have had.
Wow, that's great. I love that. Very unique. Does the Delta Theater have any historical status of any kind?
Not that I'm aware of. And that's the downside to any place that changes hands as often, because it's sort of a rounded, it's not a Quonset hut, but if you can picture in your mind sort of a rounded Quonset hut design. So the ceilings in the rooms could one day have been ornate long, long ago, but whomever took over the theater sometime in the 70s or 80s just spray painted all that stucco like black, make it, disappear into the background. And I get that. So in terms of historical elements, there's not a lot with ornateness that's left other than the original marquee, which we still have neon. We've not converted that to LED.
Nice. I love neon. So yeah, I've seen pictures of neon marquee. It looks very classy.
The LED is catching up, but it still is just a little soft, a little pastel, a little sort of South Miami Beach in terms of the color it's trying to mimic on a marquee situation as opposed to light bulbs.
Now we're going to shift the conversation more into the community aspect of the Delta. So
Sure.
How has the Delta Theater given back to the community?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, that fundraiser we did, even though we've only been open for 6 months, we've done 3 or 4, let's say 3, maybe 4, but at least 3 fundraiser shows. And what we do in those cases are we partner with a community nonprofit, a school, a parents club with a school, something like that. We did Working Wonders, which teaches kids and young adults with special needs work skills and so on and so forth. And we'll get a Polar Express, Hotel Transylvania, Shrek, something like that. And then we'll charge a very reduced rate on the tickets, donate that money back to the group. And then also we split the popcorn and the fountain sodas 50-50 with the group. So we've already, across the three groups and the three events, I think we've raised to donate to them over $3,000 if you go across all. And I only point that out because by comparison, if I had 14 screens, I could just do one every day. But things like that never happen. And there's really no reason, in my opinion, for it not to happen. But I think it's important that we do it, not just because we can and it's the right thing to do, but so many communities have lost their theaters, and very, very affluent communities. You look around, Lafayette lost their theater in 2005. Antioch has a lot of socioeconomic challenges, but they have over 110,000 people in the city of Antioch, and they don't even have one operating movie theater within their city limits. So we just want to stay as super connected to the local community as we do. And I think that's the key to surviving, especially being right here in the heart of downtown, one of the oldest buildings. It's just key that we have as much community involvement as we can.
Yeah, definitely. That's a prime location.
I'm parking, but anyway.
Oh, yeah. So earlier you mentioned that all the most of the renovations that you made for the Delta were, you had the consumer in mind. So, you wanted to give them multiple options. So how has the community responded to those changes that you've made and the other new renovations that have been done?
Well, I think very well, but my dad, who was an attorney, joked, "Don't trust my lying mouth, trust your own eyes." In the short time that we've been open, if you consider Brentwood as part of the San Francisco Bay Area, which it is, just barely, super east, deep in the edge. If you look at Yelp and the Google reviews, and you look at what I call movie theaters, meaning not places that show one movie every 3 months, but semi-daily theaters, we quickly have become the best rated, the best reviewed theater in the entire San Francisco Bay Area.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sure saying that out loud, I've officially jinxed it, but we haven't even had one negative review. The most negative input we've gotten on reviews was there's an exit sign that shines some of the green light onto the screen, and the guy would have, didn't know why we didn't put a red one. That's a nice part with Yelp. I just responded and said, "Hey, we agree with you. The fire department said it had to be green. We don't know, but we're not going to argue with the fire department." But based on that, I think it's been all around well received. And we have people that come in from far distances, when I say that, 10, 15 miles, so that they can not only see the theater, but have, a safe, smaller, non-megaplex airport kind of experience than they're used to.
That's great. How has the reopening of the Delta revived downtown Brentwood culture or life? Or have you noticed a change in how many people have been walking down the streets? Or
Oh, I certainly have. I mean, I know from speaking to people, it's been beneficial, especially for our nearby restaurants, because, dinner at a movie concept is still a thing. We've done some alternate programming, like we did we did the movie Grease, but we did just for 3 nights the sing-along version, and we sold all 3 of those out, and everyone, probably had a couple of pops before they came in, but they were all having a great time, and that's been super well received. I think the key, especially post-COVID, is, when you think of AMC or Cinemark or any of those, you don't think of a person. And that's why I'm here pretty much each and every day that we're open to the public, to be that person and the face that is constantly, interacting with people and talking to people, and just sort of helping give the theater a little bit of personality, just little little things like that that you just don't, you're not going to see anywhere else because it's just too much. It's too much out of the box thinking to do real butter or artificial butter. I found out, I didn't realize, everyone, I guess, at least around here, has always thought it was real butter at the megaplexes. Because we asked them,
Hmm.
would you like real artificial? And they kind of were shocked for a minute to find out that's not butter. That's, oil, butter flavored oil. But it's just nice to bring back some of those little touches that people never experienced before, like real butter or like a popcorn bucket, or we just did a Christmas, just an hour of public domain Christmas themed cartoons this morning for some of the special needs kids from a
Oh,
local
that's
high school.
nice.
Oh, it's great because they come, they have a great time, and they get to do it here. They get to come downtown and be part of the community, and that's really, I have to give kudos to Brentwood, not the theater, but Brentwood for that. It's just, seeing 9-year-old boys riding their bike down First Street, but just before the sun goes down. I haven't seen that since I was. It's just nice stuff, very nice stuff.
It feels like you're brought back in time in a
A
way.
little bit, yeah. I mean, until look at restaurant and food prices, and
Oh yeah.
but no, just every little touch that we could think of that's frustrating. We've tried to turn on its ear, and it's definitely benefiting the downtown.
Definitely. Does the Delta have any events other than film screenings that you guys do? Like any performing arts events?
We've talked to a number of people about it because the front auditorium still has the original stage
Hmm.
from 1948, and we put back a gold curtain for live events. And we're definitely going to do some, but because recliners take up so much space compared to conventional seating, each of our two auditoriums only has roughly 80 seats.
Hmm.
So I think that's, no one has said it, but I think it's more so it's hard for them to cover all the cost involved in bringing in the sets and building everything if they only can, maybe if they're lucky, have 80 total people come to a show.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
But we've hosted birthday parties, we did a stand-up comedy thing, and that's been fun.
Yeah, sounds fun. And this is the last question here for you. Where do you see the Delta Theater in the next 5 years?
Uh, Stupid answer, downtown. I think as long as we continue to evolve along with the trends of the business, theatrical business, and as long as we, in my opinion, continue to adapt to input and changes sought where they are by the public, I think we'll still be here. I mean, there's us, and then there's the 14 screen on the outskirts of town, and they'll always have a bigger screen than me. They'll always have, I'm not going to say better, but I'll certainly say louder sound than I do. But as long as we evolve and keep making it a destination as opposed to just, like I said before, popping by the airport, oh, maybe at gate 33, it's about 400 yards that way, then I think there's always going to be a place for the Delta right here downtown.
Definitely. And like you said before, you have the advantage of personality.
I suppose. I keep telling my wife it's a good one, but so just give it to me.
All right.
What you just heard was my interview with Josh Cottle, operator of the Delta Theater in Brentwood. I want to thank Josh so very much for coming onto the show and for sharing the Delta's history and mission with all of us. Opening during a very challenging time in American history, closing down and bouncing back to its former glory, the story of the Delta Theater is one of hardship, triumph, and above all else, community love. And, like Josh mentioned, part of what keeps the people coming back to the Delta is that sense of personality. Whether it's through giving the moviegoer the power of choice, the architecture and decor that surrounds the moviegoer, or the familiar faces you see at the theater every time you visit, personality is the biggest advantage that the Delta and other locally owned movie theaters like it have over the corporate movie theater chains. And it's what makes these prime community hubs so very special. Be sure to follow the Delta Theater on Facebook at The Delta, on Instagram at _Delta_theater, and visit deltatheater.com for movie tickets and more information. My name is Chris McNicholas, and be sure to tune in to the next episode of The Silver Screen to learn about the next movie theater coming soon. Thank you for listening.